The history of Swire Pacific goes back to the early 19th century. John Swire opened a trading house in Liverpool, England in 1861. Started trading with China in partnership with R.S. Butterfield Company. They established Butterfield and Swire in Shanghai. And then later on, a few years, roll forward to 1865. They opened a branch in Hong Kong. After the establishment of the PRC, Butterfield and Swire closed the mainland offices, and the one branch here was renamed John Swire and Son, Swire Pack's parent company. You know, James Clavell's novel Noble House, a very thinly disguised fictionalization of the rivalry between Swire and Jardine Matheson. Swire Pack is looking to keep a bit more cash and reining back its interim dividend payout by a little bit, about a third, even though they came in with $3.25 billion Hong Kong and half-time net earnings. Do the math, 415 million U.S. or so equivalent if you reckon in greenbacks. Core earning trends are still on the weak side, though. Cathay reported a positive bottom line, but a lot of that, as you heard me and Tony Tyler, CEO, talking about, came on the back of write-backs on fuel contracts. Core earnings at CX are still non-existent for now. I mean, you know what's going on through the aviation space. Operating earnings in properties took a dip because of revaluation losses and trying to reflect a portfolio of properties according to something akin to mark-to-market accounting principles. Chris Pratt, chairman of Swire Pack, returns with... by the way, I'm always nervous about putting up history of a company when the chief of a company is sitting here. Were we accurate? Any revisions needed?
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Not too bad, right?
No, that's good.
But the fact is, you are still very much identified with Hong Kong. I mean, the roots of the company, the current crux of operations. China is becoming more and more important. Tell me what is going on with Village South in Sanlitun in Beijing. Is that going to be sort of a role model, a poster child for perhaps more involvement outside the Hong Kong domain?
We've got 4 major developments in China, 2 in Beijing, 1 in Shanghai, 1 in Guangzhou, all fantastic. Village South is a large shopping mall, and it's now substantially full and is open. And we're about to open Village North at Sanlitun in September.
And how are things going in China? You know, earlier I had a reporter from Beijing talking about concerns about asset bubbles forming or lending gone amok, and the possibility that they might throw a noose around it all. Have you had any thoughts about what's transpiring across the border?
Look, there's always a danger of asset bubbles. We've got excess liquidity, and I think there is a bit of that going on in China at the moment. But we have tried to stay away from the commodity side of the market, which is sort of residential and office. We're very much a retail specialist. The large part of these 4 developments are retail, downtown retail. We think that is more recession-proof. We think that's an exciting place to be in China right now.
Well, especially with the consumer push. You know, I mean, this is one of the national economic priorities, is to get the national spending up and a little more value added into the system and away from a concept or a culture of maybe subsistence in the past. This is something which will prove a little more ironclad, perhaps, in the cyclicality of other property classes?
That's the way we see it. We believe that.
What is your model in China, actually? Do you take, do you everything on your own? You do the due diligence and selection?
Traditionally, it's the same model as Hong Kong. We like to identify the right site, to develop the concept and build it ab initio, which is what we've done with all of our China developments, bar Sanlitun, which is the one we were just talking about, where we bought it half-built. But it's a very sexy development. It's got an Amati Sando look about it, Lan Kwai Fong look about it. I think it's in a trendy area. I think it's going to be a great success.
So a lot of F&B outlets and that sort of thing?
A lot of F&B, a lot of clubs. But I think it's great.
Yeah, and the people keep knocking those back no matter what the economies are doing.
You just saw your Qingdao results this morning.
Amazing, isn't it? Huh?
And we're seeing that with our beverage business in China. We had very, very strong first half, 16% volume growth. I mean, really, really very strong. And it's still continuing.
Is there anything you want to do in that area, by the way? I mean, 90% increase in earnings from beverages, 370 million. Hong Kong, are there some maybe fragmented companies, some smaller companies that might fit in nicely, that might maybe add some padding?
We're partners really with Coca-Cola in China. We're one of their largest bottler, one of their 3 bottlers in China, and they're developing a great suite of products, and we're keeping up with it. We've already sold 400 million cases this year. We may even do 700 million this year. Is
Swire's business, I mean, across business lines, aircraft maintenance, flying people, flying cargo, property development and being a landlord, managing properties, marine services. Is that it? I mean, Swire's been a very, very steady company over the years. It's not like you don't go out and buy something completely unrelated to your company and shock and awe the market. You're definitely not known for that. But is it at all time to start maybe examining the long history, the way forward? What else does Swire want to include?
Look, Bernie, we tend not to be asset traders. If you look back through the long history of Swires, we're a granular company. We develop businesses, we grow them. It's iterative. We don't tend to buy, develop, and then sell. Mm-hmm. Look at our property model, it's the same. We're investors. Mm-hmm. We believe in the long term. We believe that's a way of getting shareholder value. I'm not saying the other model's wrong, but we think we're better at doing it this way, and thus far I think it's
Let me ask you a little bit about the, you're going to pull back a little bit on the interim dividend payout, which is understandable. Let's conserve cash and some working capital. What's your capital position right now? You looked at the papers this morning, I'm sure. Yeah. There was some buzz about Cathay, worries, concerns, fears that, some sort of a cash call might be in the, okay, you're smiling. You're smiling, winking even. What does that mean, Chris?
Look, Cathay's future is uncertain in the sense that the earnings model is challenged. The business class traffic has melted away. I think it'll come back, but we are obviously looking at scenarios, modelling scenarios in case it doesn't. We absolutely have no current intention to go to the capital markets with a rights issue. Okay. But you can never rule anything out. Depends on the future.
Yeah, no, we talked this through in great detail. We talked about, re-examining configurations and that sort of thing. Yeah. Do you buy this argument? I've heard some scare scenarios that this is not going to be a 1 or 2 year retraction, but the kind of mood that we're in right now, self-imposed austerity, belt-tightening, and avoidance of excess is something that could be with us for another decade or decade and a half, against a backdrop of which you would need to look at, things like configuration of aircraft, among many other things. Do you believe the 15-year scenario, that we could be in a bear kind of a climate for that long?
I think it's going to be a slow recovery, but I'm a huge believer in Hong Kong's special advantages on the doorstep of China. And as I say, we haven't seen, Hong Kong's driven by financial services. We've not seen a downturn in that sort of activity in Hong Kong. The animal spirits are coming back. I do believe people will start flying in the comfortable part of the aircraft again quite quickly. But it's obviously prudent to plan in case they don't.
Put in some full-time masseurs and you might bring them back to first class. That might just do the trick. The flatbeds are absolutely great. Still to come, more with Chris Pratt. We'll get some final thoughts and we'll think a little more global macro. This is Asia Confidential. You're tuned to on a Friday. Keep it right here. I often joke about it tongue-in-cheek, but it's probably not that far from the truth. Did you know that 6 people control Hong Kong? That's right, 6 people. Well, 6 companies. It's probably more than that. Anyway, one of them is Swire Pacific, and Christopher Pratt, chairman of Swire Pacific, rejoins us on the show today. Did you ever find it, you've heard of my friends of the Heritage Foundation, right? Every year they come out with that index and say Hong Kong is the freest place in the world. Yeah. Man, if I tried to buy 100,000 square feet of prime property to set up a factory making widgets or something like that, I'd have a very, very tough time.
Yeah, it's not free in that sense.
It's not free in that sense at all, is it?
No.
Where are we with that? Anyway, restructuring the economy, re-examining where we are in an aging society, and all that. You've been here longer than I have, and I've been here a heck of a long time, 2 decades. Or more.
31 years.
31 years.
Yeah, it came out in 1978, September.
You came out before they trying to even open up to the rest of the world then, essentially.
They're 78, yeah. Joint venture law 78. That was when it started, I think. Yeah.
Did you keep your copy of Fortune magazine before the handover that said the death of Hong Kong? Did you keep that?
No, I haven't got that. And I'm sure it's somewhere in the archives.
You remember it, though, don't you? Where are we today? Even today, we're still dwelling on things like, is the peg ever going to go? We've got a change in the helm at the Monetary Authority. Is Shanghai going to take us over? What do the Chinese have? What kind of designs do they have on Hong Kong? You're as well placed as anybody to comment on where we are, where we came from. Would you care to do that?
Yeah, sure. Look, I think Hong Kong's in a great space. Shanghai is going to be a financial center, but China's big enough for more than one. Is the peg going to go one day? I think when the yuan is fully convertible. There's a good case for it right now, no chance. Hong Kong needs a convertible currency.
When's that going to happen? Short term, mid term, any guess at all?
Look, I suspect it'll happen sooner than people think, but it's still several years away.
Have you ever resented the peg? There have been times the economy was doing so well, and then problems across the Pacific were a drag because we outsourced monetary policy. And I told myself I'd have a lot more spending power, abroad, within the Asia-Pac region if we didn't have this issue on our hands? Have you ever resented the peg?
Oh, look, when you have a peg, your interest rates are set by somebody else. But I do remember I was here that weekend in 1982 when there was a massive crisis of confidence. And people were lifting toilet rolls and bags of rice from the shops. And then
They still do that during typhoons, by the way.
It got that bad, and the peg came in. Brembridge brought the peg in the following week, and Hong Kong stabilized very, very quickly. It was definitely the right thing to do. I think it still serves Hong Kong pretty well.
It's I don't know. It's 83. It's been in place now, quarter century. More than a quarter century, and you kind of wonder if it's outlived its usefulness. But when you say it might happen sooner rather than later, it wasn't my intention to dwell on the peg forever. But I was kind of a little bit surprised.
That's a reference to renminbi convertibility. I think that is coming. I think that'll come in a few years. I think that when that comes, the Hong Kong peg will go. Won't go before.
Where's the world headed? People talk about the new and the fact that America in many ways has lost its compass, its guidance, its moral suasion, that sort of thing, moral authority. And we talk about the emergence of China, where China is going to end up. China, the land of great booms and great busts and all that kind of stuff. And here you are running a company with UK roots, just going about your honest day-to-day business without any real drama. What kind of things do you see emerging? What kind of a world are we facing ahead?
Look, this is the next few decades belong to China as far as I can see. I can't see anything that will stop the economic juggernaut of China taking an increasingly dominant place in world trade. They are everybody's most important trading partner these days. That will continue. Tremendous capability, energy within China. And I personally, I think very, very clever economic management.
So what about the questions about stability in the nation, a very diverse nation of ethnic backgrounds, cultures, languages, dialects, and that sort of thing. And then, of course, the fact that you look at a company like you with 4 development units, correct, as you mentioned?
4 big ones.
Yeah, 4 big ones.
8 million feet.
But also in big cities, too.
Yeah.
Others have preceded you into second and third tier cities. Is Swire in Dalian, China, number 8 city? Probably not at this point.
No.
Do you feel like maybe you're starting to join the party a little bit later, or is there a rhyme and reason to that strategy?
Property-wise, we have enough on our plate. And we've enough on our plate with first-tier cities. In our other businesses, in Coca-Cola distribution, selling sneakers you referred to before, we're all over the place.
Is that you?
We're in Dalian. Yeah.
What sneakers do you sell?
Puma, Adidas.
Really?
You name it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Does that come under property or beverages?
Marathon Sports.
Or what?
You know Marathon Sports in Hong Kong. Yeah. That's our business. So look, we do a lot of that stuff in China. We sell paint. We're active at various levels of the economy in both trade and fixed asset investment. And it's working for us. We like it. I'm an unrepentant China bull, Bernie.
Well, I would expect so, having spent 30 years benefiting from it and watching the nation grow up. China versus India. Let me take you down that path very quickly here for a minute.
Don't know India. That would be wrong for me to comment. I've heard the sort of elephant against the panda. I've no particular view on India. Clearly, it's a big economy with very clever people. But I'll talk to you about China till the cows come home. But India, I don't know.
What's going to be the big swing factor, the big test for China? Is there some sort of, how could you put it, like earth levitating factor? Is there a big 64 billion renminbi question about this hurdle which they have to overcome to really break out and become all of the things which you were just talking about a second ago?
Look, I think what's happening in China is very inclusive. People are migrating to the cities, they're getting richer. There is no universal suffrage and no democracy, as you'd call it, in the West. But I sense things are changing. I think it is an inclusive process. It's a different model, clearly, to Western democracy. Used to say it's a better or worse model.
And how many years did we say Swire Pack's been around in one form or another? 100?
Well, since the late 1850s in Asia.
1850s.
In England,
century and a half.
It's been trading since the late 1790s. Yeah.
What will Swire Pacific be? What will Swire Pack look like in 150 years?
I'd hope we're still in predominantly the same businesses that we're in, and perhaps other ones. I wouldn't know. But look, we're here to stay. We like it here. We do well here.
And still considering whether to put those first-class seats in front of the craft.
Yeah, thanks,
Chris,
Tony.
thank you so much for stopping by. Okay,
Pleasure. Really enjoyed it.
It's a good treat to have you on the show today. Christopher Pratt, Chairman, Swire Pacific.